Last weekend, we had the opportunity to hop up to Bend, Oregon to meet Darren Pleasance, the brand new president of AOPA, at his town hall meeting in his hometown of Bend, Oregon. We had a unique opportunity to fly in Ken Meyer's Eclipse jet, the first time I've ever gotten to fly the Eclipse jet, located here at Nevada County Airport. Tiny little, 6-seat jet with these tiny little GE engines, but very smooth, quiet, and efficient. That's Ken there in the left seat, Kellen in the back, and Rain Wren got to come up with us to meet Elizabeth Tennyson of AOPA, as Rain is doing a great job of getting aviation programs into our local high schools through the Continuation Training Education Program and using AOPA's template. So she was able to meet directly with the vice president of that program at AOPA. Rain's one of our local scholarship winners. And here's what it looks like flying in the Eclipse jet. Note the little keyboard on the instrument panel there. We're climbing at 27,000 feet, heading up to about 36,000 feet for the 1 hour, 300 nautical mile flight from Grass Valley up to Bend, Oregon. So it's just a sky hook. You've spend 20 minutes or 15 minutes or so climbing up to altitude, cruise for about 15 minutes, and then start your long descent down into Bend, Oregon. Just an amazing little jet. Lots of great technology. Landed at Bend and met Darren right away, and he took us on out to breakfast. While we were there, we got to meet a couple of other BLANCOLIRIO fans. That's always a blast. And this is one of the reasons we were invited on up, as Darren is a BLANCOLIRIO fan, and he likes the fact that we want to work together to continue to drive down this fatal accident rate and the overall accident rate. But data is always lagging, and here we are without the last couple of years' worth of data. Now, Darren thinks the accident rate is still going down. I'm not sure until I see the data. And here's some of the topics Darren was talking about. And so after the event, I got him to do a very short synopsis of what's going on with these topics here at AOPA. Check it out. Saturday, the 21st of June. Look who it is. Darren Pleasance, the new president of AOPA. We just listened to his briefing here, kind of a town hall meeting here at his hometown airport in Bend, Oregon. He's got the gift of gab. He just ran 1 hour direct, nonstop, without a single pause and a single note. That's why he got the job. But before that, you started out as a kid at the airport.
In Livermore,
soloed at 16, licensed at 17, and went on to Alaska to do some bush flying and did some corporate flying for John Travolta. But now, all you guys want to get on with the airlines, it doesn't always work out. It didn't work out for this guy, right?
True.
Yeah. So he went in the corporate world. And what was that first place you worked at, or one of the last places?
A place called Vanco Enterprises, and had a Saberliner and a Citation. So I had to fly jets.
But in the corporate world, you ended up at what, McKinsey?
Oh, McKinsey and Company. So there I was basically a management consultant, and then I ended up at Google, and then at Cisco, before leaving Cisco about 6 months ago to join AOPA.
And now he's here at AOPA. So real quick, what were you had about 5 or 6 talking points. First one started with what? Privatization and ATC.
Yeah, so basically modernization of ATC. We're super supportive of that. The FAA and the air traffic controllers who depend on technology absolutely need a major upgrade. So we talked about that. We talked about and avoiding privatization, the issues that would cause for general aviation, the negative issues. Talked about Mosaic coming up. We talked about privacy and some of the issues we see happening out there with ADS-B.
Back up on Mosaic. The idea of Mosaic is that you're going to open up the field by, instead of an aircraft weight limit of what,
1,320 pounds in general.
You're going to open it up based on
stall speed.
And you're negotiating for a stall speed of?
We are. Well, we'd like 61. It might end up at 58. We're waiting to see where it lands. It started at 54 knots. If we can raise it to 58, that opens up a lot of airplanes that would then qualify as a Mosaic compatible airplane, which basically means the sport pilot license would be available for a far larger number of airplanes today.
Got it. Great. And then what was the next topic after that?
Let's see what else we talk. Unleaded fuel was a big one. So this transition from 100 low lead to unleaded fuel is a big, super important thing for all of us.
It's going to happen whether we want to or not, because the one company that makes tetraethyl lead is based in the UK, and they'll go away.
They're going to stay with us for our transition to 2030, but we can't count on them to stay with us through beyond that date, and so it's incumbent on all of us to find a solution. The good news is there's several companies that are doing that today. With GAMI's doing a nice job with a fuel out there called G100UL. You've got Swift out there with 100R. You've got Lyondell is out there doing their testing of their fuel. So we have good options out there. We just need to navigate through.
BasicMed, right? So what's new on that front?
So we also talked about BasicMed, and AOPA played a core role in that years ago when it first came out. There's been over 90,000 pilots that have benefited from BasicMed over the years. Most recently, in last year's FAA reauthorization bill, it got even better. So it went up to 12,500 pounds from 6,000 pounds, and it went up to 7 seats from 6 seats, which just means that pilots who rely on BasicMed can now basically use a lot more airplanes than they could before. And we basically just use data to argue for that, because there's a lot of good data that shows that BasicMed is no less safe than third-class medical, and so there's no need to jump through all the hoops for third-class medical when a BasicMed certification works just fine.
And all this helps to overall reduce costs for general aviation and flying.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea. We want to help. One of the big things we do for within AOPA and the role we've got is to help look at all the sources of increasing costs. So medicals is one of them, but increasingly we're seeing landing fees cropping up at airports, so we're trying to be thoughtful in working with airports. We want airports to be viable, so we're not per se anti-fee. We just want fees that make sense after airports have made investments in other things that drive airport economics. So we would like to see airports that take advantage of the space around the airport to build things like hangars, or do compatible use development like light manufacturing, or support flight schools, or support maintenance facilities. Those are all things that drive an economic tax base that help these airports remain viable. And in our view, things like landing fees and other sorts of fees should be at the very bottom of the list. And if they do have to occur, they have to be fair and reasonable. And too often nowadays we're seeing places where that's not the case. And as a result, fees are going up and it's becoming more expensive to fly. And we're going to use our role to help fight against that.
And what was that statistic you had about general aviation airports around the country? How many do we got? And how many are actually used by airlines and the rest GA?
So we have 5,000 airports around the country. About 500 are used by the airlines, so 4,500 accessible only by general aviation.
And that's what we're protecting to save.
That's what we're trying to do, and that's why the U.S. is the best country in the world for general aviation.
That's right. Thanks so much, Darren.
Thanks, Juan. Thanks for being here. Thanks for making the trip up here.
All right, see you here.
Back home in time for lunch. These small jets are a whole new level of spending money on airplanes. Thanks, Ken. See you here.